Welcome to Trace Your Future with Refiloe. Now today we have an interesting guest and the sound. She's an icon, she's a legend, she's the moment comes to mind when I think of her profile, and she's none other than Papa Ma of Africa. Your time is now. Welcome to podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
I know you're a busy woman, so for you honoring this, so we can discuss, I think, the African fashion landscape, because when I look at you, I find you as an authority, in the voices among, whether it's design, whether it's conscious fashion, all of it comes in your business model, because you not only have an eye, but you are wanting us to look at ourselves and have immediacy when it comes to our potential. Yeah. How did your brand come about? Like, just take us through why and how.
I'll start with the why, because that governs every single thing that I do, and I personally do, and what we do as a business. Africa Your Time is Now is a truth that I personally believe in. I've believed in it for a very long time, and before I started the brand in 2017, which is how many years ago?
Almost 6
years ago. Yeah. I'd been in the fashion space for almost 2 decades, so have traveled extensively, and I always made a concerted effort to wear local designers when I traveled, and the compliments I would get, be it an earring or a top or a bag or whatever, and there were 2 seminal moments for me that made an impact, that I knew that by the time I go back into design, and I say back because I started design, qualified, traded in design for a little bit, and then I went into media for a very long time. So, and I always knew that I wanted to go back into design, but I always knew that when I go back, I would go back with a product that's more than just a beautiful item, which is absolutely nothing wrong with, to make clothes for, aesthetic purposes. But I knew that it needed to invigorate something in anyone who comes across it, be it the way it's cut, or in our case, the message that's in it. I was sitting at an Oscar de la Renta showroom once upon a time after Fashion Week. I was a buyer for a project, and he had as his finale item a dress that was almost exact as a David Lally out dress that my mom has. So of course David Lally didn't copy it from him. It was other around, because he was showing it, to the buyers, and my mom has the dress and had the dress for a while. The only difference was the length, and David's dress was the price it was in rands. This is a while back, and Oscar de la Renta's dress was a lot of money. And I remember thinking, guys, this is, the only difference between this garment is because it's made in New York, and our garments are made in Africa. But because we as Africans don't believe enough in ourselves, we sell ourselves short. And so that was the first moment, that was never lost on me. There were plenty others, but that one. And then I had a similar moment in Milan at a concept called Coso Como, where they had, I can't remember the brand, but it's one of these famous brands. They had a whole collection made out of ties, ties that means mainway. And they had jackets made out of ties, waistcoat, and there was a designer called Daki, who was Cape Town based once upon a time, who had this collection long years before, and because this one was made in Italy, it fetched for way more. And I remember thinking, no, this is enough. We need to put ourselves where we belong, where we've always belonged. That was such a long answer, but it's quite an important question. And I knew that I needed to play my role in reminding me and everyone around me and everyone around them that we've always had the innate power. We've always had the technical know-how. We've always had the wisdom, the creativity. Always. It's in the history books, with the first university being from Africa. And I don't have to bore you with everything else that we've been made to forget. So Africa Your Time is Now is literally a vehicle to keep the message, this truth, top of mind. Hence it's in t-shirts. And to serve as a reminder, not as a teaching, but as a reminder, because we've always known. Yes. Our grandparents knew. We were just made to forget, and that was also deliberate, to forget that we are who we are.
Well, it's so to me, it's the message. Yes, it's the advocacy and the urgency that I resonate with when I read it. because it definitely is a reminder. The first time I saw it, I was yeah, it like hit me here. So I think that's one of the reasons why you are sitting here, because you are at the forefront. Like you said, you've had this career for a long time, and you yes, you went into media a little bit. I suppose that's where maybe the finesse in how to do it, because you could have had any other brand, you could have had menswear or whatever, but you were like, I'm going to keep it African and keep it simple. But for me, it's the essence of the advocacy in fashion, because we do have a responsibility to remind each other, not Oscar stealing you. And for me, it's you looking out for him, because I mean, I don't know what followed then, which I'm sure you're going to tell us, but it's for me, it's the audacity, right? Because if it were the other way around, then there would be a lot more attention on things like that. I mean, I know it still happens. You've got now social media that's made it a lot more obvious now. And I see it also with smaller brands. What is your take on that? If you originated a design, what should be sort of like the protocol if I wanted to get inspired by it, or because they'll tell you, and nobody has a monopoly on ideas, but if you did it first, you did it first. Nobody can take that away from you.
Yeah, I mean, with my statement, I'm not saying that Oscar, because I don't know, I didn't even investigate. I don't think that. I highly doubt, and I hope that he didn't steal the design. Maybe they were inspired by, they sought inspiration from the same place. But the fact that David Tlale had it first, because I know this firsthand because my mom had the dress, different length, but I'm not saying that he stole. But going back to your question, is that appropriation is a big thing, and misappropriation of items and things, and it happens to us even. African Times Now, can you believe we have an amazing legal team? So my advice to any brand out there that has something that is trademarkable, you've got to pay attention to that, because I think if we hadn't, it does cost a lot of money, but we've trademarked African Times Now, the font and all of that, so that if anyone comes up with whatever, we've got legal recourse in order to we've got a leg to stand on. So I think my advice to any up and coming or even established designers, because it happens to designers and brands, get your legal stuff in order. No one is exempt with it to that. And also, as you said, because with the prevalence of social media, people in China can get access to what you're doing. People in Australia, as far as Australia, can have access to what you're doing. So just do that. My legal practitioner, can I say his name? His name is Craig Shapiro. Hello, Craig. He's amazing. He's been with us for a very long time, and he also does stuff for Louis Vuitton in South Africa, and he's worth every penny. He's not cheap, but he's worth every penny because he knows what he's doing. And I think he's also, besides the trade that he does, he really believes in local brands. So he goes the extra mile to fight battles that we're not qualified to fight. He said, if you go out to market without doing the legal stuff, it's like going out there without your underwear. So just get that done. And I say this with conviction, because I've had so many other brands come to me to ask for advice around the same thing. So it does happen, and no one is exempt to it. We've had people say, "Oh no, it's a compliment. It is a compliment." They do it to Off-White, to Louis Vuitton, to other. I'm like, I don't have Louis Vuitton budget, to fight this, because it's expensive to be fighting these things. But at least if you've, crossed the T's and dotted the I's up front, you've got some recourse to.
Yeah, we had this discussion actually in one of our earlier episodes, because people think to patent something or to get your trademark out there is gazillions of rands, but it's, I think, the lack of information. And sometimes it's coming from a place of, I work with entrepreneurs a lot, and it's coming from a place of, I need to formalize something and I need to get an income. So resources are scarce, and you are thinking, okay, legal way, or even if it's not your legal eagle, but somebody that can do that, and those funds going there, or do I invest my time in making sure that when I launch, this thing sells out, and then I can later have a look at that discussion. I mean, I know I'm saying this because I know that's how a lot of us think.
It's a valid point, because it's not everyone can afford it, And there is a simpler way well, in more accessible way, someone taught me, and sometimes it's as simple as emailing yourself the idea, so that there's a paper trail. So either emailing to yourself or to an associate, because it's dated. It's proof that on this day I had this idea. It could count as something in court should you need to go that route. So there's ways, but do seek advice around that. It is an important thing that shouldn't be overlooked. I mean, remember it happened to my Xhosa with Zara and the socks. You remember exactly. So no one is exempt from it. And Fabro Sands has had it with her print. It breaks my heart, but it is what it is. No one is exempt from it. And especially if you've got a good product.
Yes, and yours is, because my next question is that, were you ready for that response to what happened to what you did?
You know, I never know how. I've got goosebumps as I'm about to answer this question. Of course, I always say when people ask, I'm more in the business of spreading this powerful truth more than selling clothes. So I set out to expose this message to as many people as possible that needed to see it. So I think for me, I'm not surprised at the magnitude, but the speed with it, with it reaching far and wide, was overwhelming, and I still don't get used to it. It's like, what do you mean we in Australia? There's a store that we need to supply in Australia. Who's in Australia? That needs to hear this message, because for me it was primarily for anyone who is African by birth and African by state of mind. But you'll be amazed, there's a lot of people whom the message resonates with. And I think, the statement itself was crafted quite specifically. It was, and I get into a lot of trouble for this because I've had a lot of people challenge me saying, why is it Africa, your time is now? Because it feels like someone is telling us, like we've been always told, as opposed to us owning it.
I've heard you speak about it,
as opposed to Africa, our time is now, which is so valid. But for me, I was deliberate about that because I needed this conversation to be wider than just us.
Yes.
I needed the colonizers, the other people that aren't actually African, to have the conversation amongst themselves. What does this mean? What is it that we can do to either help, or is it really Africa's time? There's so much corruption, the story that we hear, there's so much poverty and whatever. So we can have these conversations, because I think without the conversation, there's no movement, there's no growth, there's no healing. So for me, it needed to be as broad as possible so that we can have conversations around this message from all kind of angles.
Yeah. And I think that part, most of your work, you do creative directing a lot here and there, and I think you get insights as well in your work across, Africa, but across many borders. And one of the things that pains me a lot is people saying, this is from, it's not even an original thing from this country. There's that sense of pride, yes, in the fabric, but do you still feel like we keep to our own and not necessarily embrace the diversity and the colorful nature of who we are? Because there's still people who just like, I'm this tribe and I will not wear XY tribe, or this fabric, I can't wear this because whatever. What is your opinion on collapsing these borders, like overall on many levels?
I think for me it's all about consciousness. I don't think that I'm not in a place to dictate that if you're African, you should only wear African clothes, or if you're Xhosa or Zulu or Igbo, you should only wear clothes from your tribe. I think that would be, and it would also perpetuate the man-made borders that were created by the colonizers. I think for me, it's just about being conscious. That's all it is. I wear a dress according to my mood, but I've made a conscious and deliberate effort in all my endeavors, whether it's my styling work or my design work, to seek to promote African designers, because I know what that means in the bigger picture, not just monetary, but like what I said earlier on, it's about me when I'm afforded platforms that have a very wide audience, to make sure that I promote African designers, whether they're from Nigeria. I wear a lot of Lisa Fulaweo from Nigeria. I wear anything and everything, and I'm Xhosa by birth, but I will wear a Zulu outfit if my mood. And I will also wear a vintage. I got this. It's a vintage whatever, and it's giving hippie vibes. It's not. There's nothing African about it. But I'll wear that if my mood allows. But I would never be in a place to dictate that you should only, just as long as you make a conscious decision. It is great to err towards Africanness purely because of our history and our need, especially our need right now. Because when you do support a local designer, that currency goes a long way, and we need it. We need it as a continent. We need it as a people for the currency to circulate within us, as opposed to taking it to France or taking it to Italy, or because they've got enough.
And our flair, for me, it's also not showcasing, because there's no other continent that's got just as much diversity. So talking about how we've been made to forget, we are just being by expressing ourselves. It's somebody said we must just make it boring to be normal, because you're not going to talk about it. You're not going to, oh, you're wearing African, or it's African themed. Like, no,
it's like breathing.
Yes, it's who I am. And I guess my next question is, when you travel across the continent itself, what picks your eye in terms of trends? Because a lot is happening there on social media, which is how some of us can afford to travel right now. When you look like, okay, let me look at the Lisa Fairs, and across the continent, all the designers are trying new things. But what is it that you naturally gravitate to in terms of your style?
I'm a sucker for something unique. Since I was a kid, that's actually how I ended up in fashion. I've never wanted to look like anyone else. I've never wanted to look like anyone else, because I think that as individuals, we are here on our unique journeys, our unique paths. So I don't necessarily follow trends. And if I apply that in my I love vintage, because I know that it's a once-off. I'm not gonna bump into anyone else wearing the same thing. I might mix it with like a high street number, but the key piece that I'm wearing is often something that's quite unique. And I apply that even in our collection. So, and we get into also a lot of customers get upset. We produce very few of any items, especially the conspicuous stuff, because we've already got the mainstream thing with the t-shirt, because we want everyone to have the t-shirt. But with the designer high fashion stuff, it's very few of them. And when it's sold out, it's sold out. That's it. Try something else or go to another brand, and we'll go as far as recommending another brand that has something similar, because I'm in the business. I want people to just shine, be you, and celebrate being you. Don't try and look like someone else. Don't try and emulate someone else. You are unique as you are, and there's a reason you are here. So for me, I like stuff that is unique. I like stuff that's well made. I love well made, well crafted items. And I'm an artist by birth and nature. So I gravitate towards something where I'm like, oh my gosh, you took the time. This garment wasn't just made in 3 hours. It was, there's a lot of energy and soul that's been put to it. I like simple, timeless. I'm also very frugal. I am very frugal. So anything I buy, I must be able to wear it 16 billion ways without someone saying, are you out of clothes, or are you out of items? So, when I walked in here, I was wearing the same outfit. It looked different because I was wearing with sneakers and, biker jacket, but I can still wear it with a white shirt and, so something that I can, maneuver, and it works, and it looks different every time.
That's actually what was going to be my next question, because even so, I never see the same look from you. And I guess, being a fashionista, it comes with you're exposed to all of that, but how much of it is internal with your style?
Yeah, that's such a valid question. And I get that a lot, because I know I can dress, and I say this in the humblest of ways. Is humblest a word? Yeah, with so much humility. I've got an innate sense of style, and it leans towards simplicity. Even in my styling work, I've been a stylist for over 20 years. I never want my client or anyone to look at my work and say, this was styled in 1988, because I can see by the shoulder. My style, it must be timeless. Anything that so it's always reduced. The simpler the better, because it also goes back to, I want either the model or the product that I'm shooting for, or the human being that I'm dressing to shine.
Yes. So
they mustn't.
Individuality is a value.
It's priority.
Priority for you.
Everything else is secondary. Always. So my styling work will always be simple. Even the way I dress my kids now, they're old enough to dress themselves, and I can see that they finding themselves, but they always. I think it's also my influence towards simplicity, timelessness. Things I've got clothes that I've been wearing since I was at school because I've been the same size forever. That still fit, that I still wear, because I always buy with that in mind. It must be able to last, and it must be timeless. Timelessness is a big thing. It speaks to frugality. I don't want to be spending shopping every day or every season.
But something's telling me that your closet is full, and it's one of those things that, it's a go-to place. And
thank God I've got daughters, okay? Because then at least they'll inherit the stuff. Because I'm also a bit of a hoarder. Because my stuff is so special. I buy stuff on my travels, and everything has a story. Everything is attached to a memory, and I struggle to get away. And because I've been the same size practically all my life,
also
I have a lot of family members, a lot of friends, and that I inherit clothes from. Where it's like, oh, I've gained weight or whatever, and you've got stuff. I know you'll wear it well, and then I inherit stuff like that. So I have a lot of clothes. I have a lot of clothes. I have a lot of clothes. My closet, in my bedroom, my daughter's closets, the garage, the domestic quarters, it's all me. But I also use them for styling, some of them.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so you style it, then they bring it back.
Exactly. So I'll rent stuff out for my work.
Nice. I sustain that. That's total sustainability, right?
100%.
It's not always that, you have to do extraordinary things, but something like that is cycling your wardrobe. And it's a big trend now, rent a wardrobe. And, we've been doing it, cousins and sisters would swap clothes all the time.
Informally, yeah.
So, well, I guess now let's talk about the business side of fashion, because we've spoken about the when they replicate your stuff and what, but from you to originate, it takes a lot. I love that you, like, if you've done 4 pieces, they're gone. But how long does it take to get to a place where you are profitable and sustainable through a model like that? Because a lot of people will think, okay, I'm a new brand, so there's a few strategies to do that. Either you price low to just penetrate them, or you price high and you only ever make whatever when you make it, because maybe that's not your immediate bread and butter. But how profitable is running a business in today's time, where you've got your, that other brand that I won't mention, which is on high rotation, and they're taking everything and making it with less quality material and all of those things. But is it still a career to pursue? Is it still a business to pursue in today's age?
You mean fashion design or starting a brand?
Fashion design, or going on your own completely, and being a brand like Africa Times now.
I think it goes back to the why. It always goes back to the why, and there are different strategies and different business models, and there's no one that's better than the other. It just depends on the appetite as the designer or as the business or brand owner that you are. So for me, I'll speak personally, and I know I've got contemporaries and friends that are in the space that run their businesses very differently, and that's perfectly okay. It just depends on why you do what you do. And I took a long time to crystallize my why. So I knew going in it, I wanted, because I was in magazines for a long time. I was in magazines, different types of magazines, and with magazines I was always on deadline. I was like a rat in a cage. Is it a hamster in a cage? Whatever it is that's in a cage. And there was always another issue. I was always 3 months ahead. And I knew that when I went back to design, one of my whys was I was going to do it at my own pace. I didn't want to be going on according to a calendar, the fashion calendar.
The fashion weeks.
I've been there. No, I knew that I didn't want that. It doesn't make it right. I knew that it suited my lifestyle, because me starting my business coincided with my divorce. So I knew that I wanted to be there for my kids, as in not there just financially, but there physically and emotionally, spiritually, and all of it. But also I had just started the business that also needed. So there were a lot of factors that influence my decision when I started. So, and I pinpoint that, and I bring that up because I don't want anyone to ever copy and paste my journey. Your journey is very different to mine, so just pick what makes sense and resonates, and apply what makes sense for your life. So I knew that I didn't want to work to a fashion calendar. I knew that I didn't want to, we never go on sale. None of our items ever go on sale. And it's because the items we do are timeless. There's never a need to, and because of that, we have the high to speak to the business of it, because I am in the business. As much as I love the prettiness, I am in the business of it. I need to pay the suppliers on time. I need to pay our staff on time. I never want to be emailing people to say, you know,
and because
so we need to make the money.
Yes, because you want it well made. So well made is not by accident. It's by I'm motivated and I need to know that the quality needs to be high, because that's what we are about here. And getting paid on time is a huge
big thing.
Leverage of that.
And so what was that? Oh, so we've got products that are high turning products.
Yes.
That kind of sustain the business in a very comfortable way. So, and I think most businesses are like that. I mean, if you
stars and dog products, something like that.
Yeah, you've got your bread and butter. For instance, like a Louis Vuitton, their accessories are their bread and butter, and their apparel doesn't churn as much money because they're high price items. They're only also limited, whatever, but they know. And as for some other brands, it's their perfume line. That is the bread and butter that sustains everything else. So find that item, and then you can. So that's what we did. We've got an item that carries everything else. Because you spoke about sustainability, I didn't want. We don't go and sell, so I'm not trying to flood or add to what's going on in the environment with our product. And also our product is well made. We made sure that we use very good cotton. You know, it's quality products, and that was also because we're African and an African brand, and there was that at some point that notion that African brands are subpar. They belong in the markets because, you know, they're not as well made as French or Italian brands. And I wanted to kind of do away with that mentality. And so our product it competes. That's why you'll find us at the stores that you find us. Because we compete very comfortably with your brands I won't mention, but high quality, you know, the international brands. Because that's very deliberate. So it was two-pronged. It was for sustainability, because I don't want you to wearing our t-shirts 6 times and then you wash it and then and then you have to chuck it and get another one. I want you to wear it for a good couple of years, because then that does something good for the environment, but also to compete comfortably. I don't want a pity purchase where it's like, no, let's support this brand, Africa. No, you buy it because
you want it and you believe in it, and it's a quality item and it
on merit
globally. I think I have taken the time when I went to get mine, because I took a look. I'm like, I haven't seen this, because what you see here in Rosebank and what you see in Satin, I think I'm getting the message now, because something I didn't know about your brand. But you know, I'm listening and and I'm wondering how aware you are of your influence, like the word influence. Like, I know I'm not talking about influencer, but I'm like, what you wear, what you make, where you source, how you style. Are you conscious of all of that and what it does for the industry, for the culture? Are you?
I don't know how to answer that. Because I'm in it daily. I mean, I was on the phone with our factory just before I came to sit down here. I'm in it daily. So I never take the time to sit and look back, unless I'm sitting in an interview like that and I hear someone saying that. But I don't do it for clout. I don't do it for. It's really, fashion is my calling. We don't have the time to tell you to discuss how I actually got into it, but it is a calling, and I've been doing it now for 20 odd years, and I would be doing it for free, because I love it. I'm very passionate about it, and because it's what I do is so dynamic, I never get bored. I work with an agency, Lamppost, and I do styling. So I'm currently on a production now. We're shooting next week, so I'm constantly inspired, and I live a very simple life. So I never, and I'm seldom on social media. We are visible, but I'm not. So I never take the time until I hear someone say something like that. But I do it for the genuine love of it, nothing more, nothing less. And until, I was saying to you earlier on, 7 years down the line, it's still not stale to see someone wearing an item that we've produced. I don't think I'll ever get over that feeling. I mean, I don't know if Phil Knight from Nike is over it, but he's been around for way longer than I have. Because I started the business literally make, because I'm a trained designer, I would make the stuff, package the goods, market them, and deliver them. That's where I started. I literally started with my own hands, and then the company grew organically. We employed a few people that did all of that. So I knew everyone who had our products. I knew by name, by face. And then as the brand grew, then we supplied different stores all over the world. So I will land at an airport in France and I will see someone wearing our t-shirt. Or I'll get a picture from a friend of mine who's going to the States saying, oh, look, I saw it on the plane or in Miami or whatever. Look at you. So I'm like, I have no idea where they got it from, whatever. Yeah. So it's humbling. It's humbling, and it's yeah, but I'm not conscious of it. I'm not conscious until I'm made conscious of it by the scenarios I've discounted.
So you approach them at the airport, you're like, hey, nice t-shirt. At least.
Sometimes I get tempted and then I'm like, yeah, that's weird. If someone else did that to me, I'd be weird. But sometimes I do. I'm tempted. I've never done it. To be like, oh. I did once. I was in a queue at a clothing store and there was a little kid who was with their mom, a little boy wearing one of our t-shirts. And I was staring at this boy and I was having my own personal moment. And then I realized that I'm actually staring, and that's rude. And then I explained to the mom, I'm like, no, sorry. The reason I'm staring is because, I'm the person behind the brand. And she started speaking. She had a foreign accent. And she was like, oh my gosh, for real? I said, yeah. She said she bought the t-shirt somewhere in Paris. What? And even that, I had a moment. I was just like, what are the odds, So that's as far as I've gone. But I don't. Unless it's someone I know. But I don't.
What's in the future for your brand and for your work, because I'm hearing a lot of you in what you're doing. So you always look after, like making sure everything's well made because that's what you like to wear, and making sure that the brand is sustainable, because obviously you are a person that you mentioned that you're frugal about yourself, but I think you want the business to be sustainable financially as well. So your personal values, you've put them into this business, but when you look at the next 7 years, what's on your agenda? If you get to share,
as I said earlier on, we're in the business of spreading the message. The message is way bigger than just fashion. I strongly believe that with every fiber of my being. Fashion was a low-hanging fruit because I trained and I operate in the space, so it made sense to start it there. But the message can live and should live anywhere, because we're here to serve as a reminder, and we'll stop what we're doing when we don't need to remind that it's our time. When your kids, my kids, the next generation lives this truth. It's in their DNA, it's in their blood. As they wake up, they know it's been their time. They live accordingly, they act accordingly, they don't need the reminder. Then we'll, probably move to something else. So the message, I know it has other platforms it can live on, and that's currently what we're working towards. We do have a range of candles that we launched just before COVID, and we supply different stores with these candles. But also the candle, it all manufactured locally, because I'm very big on that, keeping the currency circulating on the continent, made with very, very good ingredients. So the scent, the kind of wax we use, all of it, the packaging is top class, because that goes without say. But when you light the candle, because we've always been known as the dark continent, that's been our reputation. That's what they've labeled. I say the other people have labeled us as. So every time you light the candle, it's like lighting your own way, lighting our own way. So it's a spiritual thing. It's a candle, yes, but it's got the message. But I want us as a people, as a society, to be very conscious of the stuff that we do. It's yes, we use candles for different reasons, either for scent or for aesthetics or decor, whatever. But when you light the candle, just say that little prayer, for the continent, for yourself, for whatever. So that's our next our product line that we've kind of getting out there, and we launched it just before COVID, so we kind of had to put it on hold. But it's there in the background, and at some point we'll market it. And then there's definitely a symbiotic relationship between our message and the art world, so that the message lives in the home. So collaborations with certain artists that's in the pipeline, because as I said, we're in the business of spreading this message. So there's a few projects that we are working on, and also taking our time, because the time needs to feel right. The time when we launch anything needs to make sense and not be desperate. We're not in that, because energy is everything in what we do. We're still a very small team. We pray for every single item that we send out there. For anyone who wears our garment, it's been prayed for, so that when you wear it, you impact as many people, and we see the return, because the bulk of our business is repeat business. It's the craziest thing. The majority of our business is from either a corporate that has been buying from us for years because they use our t-shirts. They buy them to give them as gifts to their execs or their team, because they've got Africa Time is now Fridays, whatever. Or you bought the t-shirt, you traveled to Ghana, someone was like, oh, I want this, I've been seeing this, I want one. You live in South Africa, you'll get it, you know what I mean? And then you come back and you come back and buy 4 of them, because you can think of 4 other people that will appreciate this message. So the bulk, and I think it's testament to the energy that's been put into the product that we put out there. Energy is everything. I'm all about that in my personal life, and it only makes sense that in the business that I do. So the team that we have, we recruit them with that. You don't have to be an expert in what you do, but you have your mind and your heart needs to be right. Everything else will take care of itself. So every single thing that leaves our warehouse is very special. And I see it because we've got a factory that makes the t-shirts, and then it's a normal plain item. But the minute it has the message, it has a whole different energy to it. We see it every day, where it's like, oh, we've just, because we're exploring and making tops in different fabrics and not just t-shirting fabric. And the factory will bring it to the warehouse and for quality checking. But the minute it comes back from the printers and it's got this message, it's a whole different, it carries a whole different energy. And I think it can only be that people pick up on it, because as I said earlier, energy never lies.
I've enjoyed this chat. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And I'm very appreciative of what you just said. And I would also like to add, not that it needs adding, but I want, if there's anything whoever's watching this takes from our conversation, is that run this race at your own pace. Don't try and copy. I mean, you could be twins, roommates, siblings, whatever. You are on your own unique path. That is very key. There's a reason why you've got your own unique fingerprints. And there's a reason why you're still breathing. Show up as who you're supposed to show up as. Don't try and copy anyone else, because that's going to lead you towards. So even with us having this conversation, take bits of what I've just said and add them to your essence, and then run your own race at your own pace, your own path. Don't try and copy this one, and because someone said this is how it should be done. No, I think that's the one thing I learned a little bit later in life. I'm in my 40s now, and one of my key mentors is very big on this. She's one of the most successful businesswomen in South Africa, and I look at her and I think, sure, because I used to work for Destiny magazine, which was a business magazine, so I was exposed to so many businesswomen, and a lot of them were very much about the bottom line, the hard side of business. And it never resonated with me. I was just always like, I'm just a fashion designer. But the minute,
I just want money from it,
and I felt less than, exactly, because I was like, I could never, I don't have those expertise. I don't. But the minute, I don't know if I can mention it, but the minute I started seeing how she lives her life, she's successful in what she does and whatever, but very big on spirituality and very big on realness and pouring into other people as well, and the soft side of business. And I think that's what makes her so prevalent and so successful, is because she's just anyway. So I want to be a little bit of that, and I want to share a little bit of that, because I see how it's worked for me. I spend a lot of time in nature, and nature reminds me of that all the time. Things happen when they're supposed to happen. You can't rush nature. There's seasons for a reason. Trees tell us that, the sky tell us, the waves, all of it. And we're also part of nature. So what makes us think that we should do it differently? Anyway, I'll leave it there. Otherwise we can go on forever.
I feel it. If we don't end it there, we can just keep on going, because I think it's all these nuggets that have, I think even those conversation affirms why you should be sitting in that chair, because it's very comforting to have a person look like me, you know, and be of my color and have achieved what you have, but very much on their terms. I respect that more than you know, because you know that when you're trying to prove what you know about yourself to others, or that validation that will bring in the income and the recognition to say, okay, you are on the right track. It takes a while for it to come. So knowing that it's just about, you know, it's the season and that your time will come and you need to continue to honor yourself based on the factors that you don't control, like nature, as you say, seasons. So thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, that's all we have time for. Download the Trace Academia, and there are fashion courses coming, and all of these things that Papa is talking about, you can find yourself as somebody being possibly mentored by her. Who knows? Yeah, that is for me. That is the key takeaway here. You know, your path is very inspirational, and I hope that even though you are not aware, you're saying you are not aware, but I hope you at least soak it in. That the 20 years that you have not been in vain. Because there's the likes of many of us that watch and with admiration and say, I've just got to do it one more day, maybe, you know, one more month. And yeah, soon I'll know I would have reached that 20 years. So thank you.